If you can win the lane, then you should. But sometimes you can't. And if you can't win the lane, well then what are you going to win? Like, what's your target, right? You want to win something. So like that's an example where like you'd be building into your strengths. What are the strengths of Spirit Breaker? Ganking, fighting, movement speed. So I'm gonna buy more movement speed and items that help me gank better and fight better, right? Phase boots.
Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is weekly coaching number 13. We missed a week there because of scheduling conflicts and everything like that. But this is probably a good point to like reassess the format and everything like that because it has been 3 months. So we'll check in and see how that's doing and see how the student's doing and go right into it. So, Dookie, how was the last week and what's your MMR now?
So MMR we're at 2789.
Cool. Slight bump from last time.
I didn't get to. It was one of those weeks that I haven't really gotten to. A couple weeks, honestly, that I haven't really gotten to play much.
Yeah.
But the last couple games before this Oracle game I played were wins, which was nice. So we did a little bit of Doom. And some Spirit Breaker. I ended up playing Oracle because I ran out of Q games, or
is it just these
roll Q games?
Is it just these 5 then? So like well, I guess like after this last session, it would have been like Mars, Treant, Mars, Doom, Spirit Breaker, Oracle. Those ones.
Yeah.
There? Okay.
Yeah.
How did Mars feel? Because I know we were thinking about Mars as part of the homework.
So Mars, I think, is one of those where it's like, in theory, I think it can work, but it's higher skill cap, or not. It's like a higher skill floor to get success than like Doom, because you have to, if like certain people, you're just gonna have to immediately arena spear them.
Yeah.
Perfectly, and then it's kinda good.
You know what I mean? Whereas, did you feel like you were able to execute on Mars though, or did you feel like that the skill shots were holding you back?
That part was holding me back. I still enjoy Mars because occasionally, like, I don't know, like, you know, having the spear and getting like, getting your ags and spearing 2 people, like, that's pretty fucking good, you know?
Yeah.
And I've done that on occasion. But I felt like in general, like, let me look at some of these games. It just felt like some of them, it was so crucial for me to land that in order for us to get something. And it's difficult, you know? Yeah. It's hard to get value sometimes. Whereas like with Doom, I just gotta doom the person.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't gotta think too hard about it.
Much easier to do it. But then that's also another aspect of the hero, right? So typically the harder the hero is to play, like the more impact it should theoretically have.
Yeah, and that's like, the thing with
a Doom can gank someone, but he can't gank them like every 20 seconds the way like a Mars can, right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?
The thing about Mars is it still feels like you only get so much value. Like pre-BKB Mars is great. But then BKB happens and you have to basically, he becomes that hero where you need to have the team behind you and ready.
Yeah.
Which was the problem I was having before, because after BKB, all you have is the time where you speared him to burst them down before they can just BKB and walk out of arena.
Yeah, well that is something I brought up, right? Like he does kind of have that window because all of his spells get countered by BKB.
Yeah.
So that's not surprising. Okay, what were the other things put in here? We said practice Doom, practice Mars. Did you get a chance to try Harpoon Magnus at all?
No.
Okay, so we'll
no, I didn't end up trying that.
But Doom, what were your thoughts on that? You only got 1 game in with him, but
Doom, I enjoy. Like, it feels Doom, honestly, I probably will end up playing a lot more because he just covers a lot. Like he can farm, he can team fight, he can pick off.
Mhm.
Yeah, it never like I never feel super bad with Doom. Like the worst is just like even I think the game where I won, it didn't feel amazing. Because I think I maybe had a rough lane
Okay.
and I didn't end up getting like snowballing or anything really early, but still like with his ult, I could choose good fights. And it still like made a huge difference.
Right.
And I never necessarily fell off even with that bad start because of Devour.
Yeah, I mean, look at this one. You got like, you only had 100 last hits in this game, but your net worth is still fine.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so
easier to recover then?
Easier to recover. You're always kind of relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The only part where it starts to get hard is, when, what's that fucking item? God, why can't I remember it?
What, on Doom or what?
No, the item that counter Doom.
Like Lincolns?
Yeah, but how many people are going to buy Lincolns on the enemy team? You know what I mean? So you're pretty much always relevant.
That's one of those things where it's like these types of heroes are going to be better at lower ranks just because it's like people refuse to buy the thing they have to counter you.
Right.
Because you go to higher ranks and it's like the carry gets ahead and then just instantly buys a Lincolns instead of buying more damage, and you're like, well, now I can't do anything.
Yeah. At the very least, with you could always get their support. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
You got a Dazzle. Now Dazzle can't fucking save people.
Right. Right. Okay.
So, that I like about him. I feel like there's always something there. Or and fucking at the worst, devour a fucking centaur and just stomp.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And also we had the large cooldown ult thing as part of the homework. Do you have a replay for that?
No. Shit, I forgot that part. Yeah.
Okay. It's fine. Try and do it this week then. All right then. Well then, which replay did you want to look at?
We could look at the Spirit Breaker for the lane. It was kind of a tough lane. Because it was 2 melee versus their 2 ranged.
Yeah, okay.
So it was me and Omni versus Shadow Fiend and CM.
Okay. It's probably not going to be too much to look at there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because that actually just comes down to what the Omni does and how much you like defensively aggro, and that's like kind of it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So all right, so we want to look at the lane phase. Any other things you want to look at here? Do you have a specific question about the lane?
I guess it was like what is the proper response? Especially with like Shadow Fiend. I always like I don't play Shadow Fiend, so I kind of understand some of the stuff, but I know like at a certain point he just starts fucking pelting you.
Yeah. Okay. So what's proper response?
So yeah.
Anything else for that game?
Let me think. Do you think? Okay, yeah. Look, I want you to kind of see. Do you think I did well about how I treated the game after the laning phase?
After laning phase. Okay. So.
I think I felt decent about it.
That was post lane phase or mid game or late game or what?
Like mid game.
Okay.
Because it was one of those things where I was like, like I think I get too set on like, oh, I'm Spirit Breaker, so I should gank, and I lose out on like whenever we do live coaching sessions, and you're like, hey, you have a span of time, farm this fucking camp.
Yeah.
I try to do a little bit better on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So let's have a look at that then. So like, okay, so were we farming enough? Would be the other question.
Yeah, and were we doing it in a way where we weren't sacrificing the right opportunities to do farm?
Okay. So we'll say efficiently as well.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Skip ahead.
30 seconds to battle.
So first thing, so if you think, when you go into this game, are you thinking like, okay, I'm against SFCM? That's the first thing it's going to inform like how you're going to play this.
I wasn't sure who. I knew it was probably going to be Shadow Fiend.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure who the support was going to be.
Even if it's CM or Silencer, it doesn't matter, right? So you know it's going to be, if you're pretty sure it's SF, then you know it's going to be double ranged, and then you have this Omni, right?
Yeah.
So the better thing, not under your control, but the better thing for you guys to do as a team would be to actually switch the Omni and Veno, have the Veno play with you, because then it's, you know,
True.
one range, one melee per lane.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's still relevant to know, because like, I think at this rank, I think people would be more receptive to something like that.
Okay, then that's something you can suggest, right?
Yeah.
The one thing also then would be buying a stick early against both of these heroes. I mean, he started with Necromastery, but he is going to do Shadow Raises and stuff. CM is going to spam a lot of spells. And depending on this Silencer, like a lot of it's kind of a 50-50 whether Silencer is going to go Glaives or whether he's going to go like Arcane Curse and stuff like that. But I like to go stick against kind of both of those heroes anyway, even though this is like a massive cooldown. But if it's a CM lane, definitely you'd want to stick in this lane. So that would be like something I'd be thinking about purchasing like right out the gate or just as early as possible. But other than that, I mean, this is kind of just like how you need to play it. You just take the last hits they let you get, you know?
Yeah. See, and that's kind of what I figured, like, pretty early on into the game. I was like, yeah, like, I'm basically fighting for what I can get. So my mind was like, okay, in a situation like this, like, I don't typically think of Spirit Breaker as a great farming hero. I don't think he's the worst, but,
pretty bad, though.
Yeah, I was like, okay, how do you recover from something like this?
Well, it's not actually fair to say he's like bad at farming, because later on, like, your Charge of Darkness does almost one-shot an entire wave.
Yeah.
So he's okay at farming waves. He's really bad at farming the jungle, though, I think.
Yeah, that's what yeah, for sure. That's what I was feeling.
So, I mean, a Midas can always be an option here.
Interesting. I don't think, like, I never think of that in terms of like a legitimate thing, just because I've seen it so much in the worst situations.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. Like, if people don't know when to buy a Midas, then it just looks like a troll item, right? But yeah. Midas is like, what Midas is for heroes that value XP more than gold, right? Okay. Heroes that don't have a good farming ability, or there's just not a good farming item for them to buy.
Yeah.
And also it's for games where you're losing. So the nice thing about Midas is that you just generate gold and XP out of nowhere. If you think about it, every other farming item, so Maelstrom, Battle Fury, whatever the hell it is, you want to get like lifesteal on some heroes, they allow you to farm faster or farm at all, right? So if an AM, let's take AM for example, like why would AM buy Battle Fury, right? Because he has no AoE otherwise.
Right.
He likes Battle Fury for both the health and the mana regen because he likes to blink around a lot. So He doesn't really want just Maelstrom. Like, he actually kind of wants those stats. Like, a Juggernaut doesn't need Battle Fury as much because he has Healing Ward, and also because freaking, what's it called? Mjolnir is attack speed, which is better for his ult. So like every hero has a farming item that's kind of best for them, even if like multiple would work, right?
Yeah.
But in those cases, like if you're an AM, like do I buy Maelstrom or Battle Fury or Midas? Well, Battle Fury is going to let me just farm faster. Maelstrom's going to let me farm faster and do a little bit more damage than normal. And then like a Midas lets me just like also farm faster, but it also generates gold and XP where there wasn't any.
Yeah.
Right? That's the big difference. So on a hero that has like just like a Battle Fury or a Maelstrom wouldn't work on them at all, like Spirit Breaker, like Midas would be a decent farming item.
Yeah. Would you say the same for like Slardar?
Slardar's a weird one. I think Slardar is more of a Midas guy.
Yeah.
I think so. And it's like also another thing is like the heroes that want to fight a little bit more might go for the Midas over one of those other farming items.
See, I was always under the impression, and I think this is because of the people buying it in stupid situations. I was always under the impression is like Midas is strictly when you think you're about to have a good ass game.
It can be. It can be, but yeah, all right.
I think that's maybe for like people being super greedy on like I don't know, like baseless weight or something.
Yeah. No, I think it's better to think of. It's usually better to think of Midas as like this game isn't good for me, or I do have to farm, but there's not another good farming item. So like in this game, for instance, you know Medusa's going to take a while to get online. You guys have like okay tower push with Veno. Viper probably is going to play a little bit high tempo. You can play high tempo. So if you bought the Midas, it'd be kind of okay because you've got a Medusa that's going to go late, and this game's probably going to have to go late, right? But you could also just not buy it as well, and you could go for farming items and play around Viper, and that would be fine too. It's just like one thing to think about, right? Because this hero doesn't farm very well, like that would be nice on him. But Spirit Breaker specifically is weird because his damage scales off movement speed, and because of that, he can just farm creep waves super well. So you usually don't even buy a Midas on Spirit Breaker anyway. I don't really know why I'm getting into it because it's not like you don't really need to, but
I feel like I learned something, you know.
Yeah. Some of them don't really make any sense, right? So like a Lifestealer doesn't buy Battle Fury. Well, why not? I don't know. There's like why? Sometimes he goes Maelstrom, sometimes he goes Midas, but he never really goes like Battle Fury. Maybe that's because he just doesn't need the health regen from it. You know, like I think at the highest level, like the farming item is really just like what is best for the hero, like what has minimal redundancy in it. Like you don't buy Battle Fury on Sven. Everyone kind of knows that. Why? He already has Cleave. Why are you buying more Cleave? That's a bit silly. You just buy Lifesteal on Sven and that's good enough. You know? That kind of makes sense. I think that's like the best example of like how the farming item doesn't help.
You wouldn't buy Maelstrom because he doesn't hit fast enough to proc it for it to be worth it.
Right. Well, and the other reason you wouldn't buy the Maelstrom is the Maelstrom doesn't add any sustain for a hero that's entirely melee and already has a farming ability. So if Sven didn't have Cleave on him, then Maelstrom might be okay, but you'd still probably have to buy a regen item anyway.
Uh-huh.
But it's because he already has Cleave and is melee.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense. Heroes farm in different ways, right? So like PL, Terrorblade, Medusa, like they don't need to buy those types of items because they, well, not Medusa, but the other ones have illusions. So the illusions tank for you. The illusions get extra creep waves for you and stuff like that. Like your kit is your farming ability.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say?
So something I kind of notice in like higher level games is like there's almost like this like game of chicken, and maybe it's not a game of chicken. It just like that's how it looks to me.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
But of like aggression in the lane. So sometimes it's like sometimes there's like very obvious moments or whatever, like or matchups where it's like, okay, I can bully this motherfucker.
Yeah.
But other times, like especially maybe I see this more in like mid, where it's like they'll just be fucking hitting each other and hitting each other and hitting each other and getting really low, and kind of like seeing what's gonna happen. What are the situations where I kind of like want to do that?
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
So like the situations where you specifically want to trade a lot.
Dire's middle tower.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
guess,
if
like-
your hero's good at it.
Yeah.
So with the mid matchup specifically, it is typically the mid matchup is much more even, right? So
Yeah.
and because it's so close and contested all the time, like it's a little bit like how in like one thing like higher level what they do is like everybody fights for the runes. And it's
Right.
like what I like to think about is whenever two heroes are engaging, right? Like whenever there's like a fight going on or a gank or a team fight or whatever, one person is wrong. Like one person shouldn't be taking the fight because of stats or net worth or whatever. Like there's someone is always stronger. It's not League of Legends. We're not playing literal mirror matches, right? So
Yeah.
somebody has the advantage, and maybe both players don't know it, maybe they do. But in mid, typically the heroes are much better matched against each other. And so if you take that gamble and see if you can outplay the other guy, you get a big advantage. And it's the same thing on the runes too. Like, should you be 5v5ing over the bounty runes? Probably not, because you're just gambling too much. But if you
Yeah.
win the gamble, then you're pretty far ahead, and I think that's why people do it. So
Got
it can be kind of the same thing like anywhere. Like, how closely matched are the two heroes? Like, is this actually fairly even? Then if I can trade and get ahead, then that gives me a pretty big advantage, right? Instead of just like passively farming. Usually it's not going to be super even though, and that's why you don't want to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just like wonder if sometimes I'm passing up on certain things that I could, or times I could be aggressive. Like, should I be? This just occurred to me looking at this. Like, should I be trying to check Shadow Fiend's mana, and if it's low, just start fucking hitting it?
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, always, like, that should be something you should be thinking about, right? So
Yeah.
you have to think about the, like, okay, in this lane specifically, like, when am I allowed to, like, trade hits with an SF or a CM? So whenever you're trading with another hero, you have to be thinking about, like, a lot of different factors. So first off, health, like, who has more health? Who has more mana, right? How scared am I of their spells? Like, if they cast all their spells on me and I cast all my spells on them, like, what does it look like? Like, are we both half health? Am I half health and they're full? What does that mean, right? Positioning. So if I'm super deep and the fight goes bad, how can I decide to leave? So, like, am I actually hard committing just by getting into this fight at all? Like, I'm out of options, like, if it doesn't go the way I think it will. So gauging that is another aspect to it. The number of heroes around, items come into play as well, but also importantly, damage, armor, magic resist, those things too, because that affects like how much damage you're going to do and how tanky you actually are. So on a hero like Spirit Breaker, pretty high armor, pretty high damage, pretty tanky. But unless you're going to save your Charge of Darkness to get away, you have no escape and you're actually kind of slow early, right?
Yeah.
Especially versus ranged heroes. Ranged heroes punish you really hard if you need to run away from the fight because they get to hit you a few more times, right? So in a melee versus melee, Spirit Breaker is going to be a lot better off. He can decide to just walk away. But against like an SF who might hit him a few more times, it might be really bad. So in these instances, it's going to be a lot more about positioning and timing because it's a melee versus ranged, basically. Oh, here, this might be it. Here, we found it.
Here we go.
This would be an example where first off, I would go earlier. One thing. Like boom, like once he gets CC'd here, like okay, he's stuck here. You might want to just charge right away, like before he even gets CC'd. Like you are walking away from the creeps, but you really don't want to let them kill Omni. Oh, goddamn invis bug. Kills are super goddamn important right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Like they've always been important, but they're super, super important right now. So not letting people die is also just as important. Let me go to your player cam here. If you can see this. You don't have your charge right now because of that. But I'd be okay with walking towards them.
Radiant's bottom tower.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the charge. So because you don't have charge and they're going on Omni, like just walk at them.
Yeah.
At best, they're gonna get confused and start hitting you instead of Omni. Right? At worst, they just keep hitting Omni and they don't hit you at all, and then you get damage for free. If you had your charge, I would say you actually charge immediately, but you don't have a charge. So you walk up and you probably just walk at DSF, who's going to do more damage, and start hitting him, right? And then he doesn't get to just hit Omni for free. So by him attacking Omni, he's actually giving you an opening to get in there, because like when his attack goes, his attack's on cooldown. He can't just instantly attack you, right? What were you gonna say?
I guess this normally isn't really a problem, because I think when people are in this situation still at this rank, they tend to just like drop their spells. So, obviously, in this situation, CM doesn't have the mana, but I don't know that in the moment because I didn't check her mana. I think my fear is I walk up, she throws down her Q, and then Omni dies, and I'm walking away, and I get killed.
And that would suck a lot. But what you also have to consider, this is why like context matters so much, right? So in this instance, you need to be knowing how much mana she has.
Yeah.
So like hopefully ahead of time you would have checked her mana. And then once she casts the spell, you don't need to look to see how much mana she has. It's like, well, she had like 150 and she just casted Frostbite, so she doesn't have enough mana for another spell. She has no mangoes, okay, right?
Yeah.
That's the type of thing you want to be doing. That's why checking's important. But also, here's another thing. You have your Tranquils on the courier and you have 2 bracers. So at this point, you have the most sustain of anybody here. And CM has Tranquils as well, but you actually have more health regen than everyone else.
Yeah.
So if that happened, like you walked in and CM hit you and then you took a bunch of damage, you would just walk away for a second and just heal up and also grab this Lotus Pool right here. You know what I mean? Like, you have the regen to now take quote unquote bad trades because of the build you've done.
Right.
Whereas,
that makes sense.
Like he's got 1 stick charge. She has Tranquil Boots.
Yeah.
He's got some stick charges too. But yeah, what's up?
I think that might just come down to something that's like a fundamental to kind of work on, because that seems like something that should be. I absolutely am not doing. I kind of try to keep it in mind. Like if I see somebody popping mangoes or something and then they use a spell, I'm like, okay, they probably didn't have mana and then they just used some of it up. So I kind of know where their mana's at, but I need to be actually just like, hey, if this is relevant, like where is their mana, because if it's low, then I actually climbed. You want to know something funny?
What's that?
I think I climbed literally like 100 MMR when I was at my lowest in Herald by checking the enemy carries regen and just buying more than him.
Okay.
I'm not joking. I literally did that for so many games and it worked. Where I just they didn't think to keep buying tangos. Yeah. So I would just buy more tangos than them and be like, oh, they have a salve in this. Once that's up, cool. I'm just fucking beating on them.
Yeah, definitely. No, the regen part is huge. And actually, it's something I'm like relearning myself now. Like
Yeah.
being, especially at like position 5, like being willing to spend a bunch of money on regen to win the lane. Like, it's important.
Yeah, I think I also that's like something from like BSJ and just a lot of different people who do coaching sessions where it's like, okay, well, you bought a bunch of this regen, like you don't make it for no reason. Like go up and fucking lose some health.
Yeah.
You know, make it worth the while.
Right. Well, they think of health and mana like as a resource. Like if you're sitting there full health with 6 tangos, like you're kind of doing it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's always something to be thinking about. I guess so. What it really comes down to then is you have all this information, you have all these different ways to use the information once you have it. But really, the trick is you need to be gathering the information. You need to be checking them constantly.
Yeah.
That's like kind of as much as possible, as much as is feasible. You need to be checking everybody, like all the time, checking everything. Like Dota is all about information. So the more you can gather, the better. Right? And then this is a silly death here.
Yeah, that was. I think I was checking the menu and I fucking clicked wrong.
Yeah, that's a silly one. Okay. So I think for the most part, it's been okay. That's your first death. You guys did pretty well considering like how bad that is. Just for your own reference, so if you were the Omni Knight in this game and you're in this double melee versus double range thing, that's a bad matchup for you guys. So what you want to be doing is avoiding static laning as much as possible. And that means pulling constantly, cutting the creeps and dragging them either in front of the tower or behind the tower. Just total like freaking chaos, right? Like just we're never just gonna stand there and get last hits. Like ideally, like they're stuck farming their wave under tower and we farm our wave under tower. Especially important because ranged heroes don't have any damage block. So like let's say you're the Omni and you just go like drag the wave, right? Pull it over here. Okay, Spirit Breaker has nothing to do, and then the creeps go under their tower, and now SF has to farm under tower and lose health. And then I just pull them over here and Spirit Breaker just walks back and gets the creeps back here. Right? And then Omni just does that on repeat. Like all the Omni Knight has to do is make sure that like pulls don't happen. The wave is not just sitting in one place. Like he's pulling whenever possible and he's dragging, and that's it. And then also because it's a bad matchup for you, like he should be trying to give you as much solo XP as possible. This is like a really like rough like position 4 thing to learn, because a lot of the position 4s that are really good in the mid game are melee and thus suck ass at laning. So you have to learn all these tricky things, like pulls become everything, dragging becomes important, like giving the core solo XP, it's all super important, right?
Yeah.
That's because it's a bad matchup. If it's a good matchup, then he should play with you and you guys should get a bunch of kills. That's not. Sounds good. And you're rushing Boots of Bearing, right?
Yeah, that was the idea. I don't think I ended up going. I think I go Shadowblade and then into it.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea was to get Boots of Bearing.
So I probably wouldn't bother. I'd probably just go Phase Boots.
Yeah. Well, a part of the reason was it felt like, because a lot of this lane felt like walk up, get hit.
Yeah.
So for some reason, I just felt like I didn't want to go Vanguard.
Yeah, and that's another kind of problem with this like hero. I mean, you can go Vanguard on Spirit Breaker, but it's just kind of weird. But
yeah.
But that's actually, that is a reason to go Vanguard, like because it's walk up and get hit a lot. Like you buy the Vanguard and now like half their damage is gone.
Yeah.
So this would have been a good Vanguard lane. Yes. Maybe it's not the best on this hero, but you can always go Crimson Guard and that's fine. I probably would have just gone Phase Boots.
Okay.
And like let's say I had 100% control over this lane. Like, so what would I do? Well, I would make sure the Omni is dragging constantly. I'm never static laning. And then I'm itemizing to then gank a lot. and that means
Yeah.
like phase boots, shadow blade, whatever I need. I'm not itemizing to win this lane. We're gonna try and not lane as much as possible, which like and by that I mean just the creeps are never looking like this. That's my first goal. They never look like this. And then because they don't look like this, I don't have to buy all the sustain items. So we just kind of do whatever until the lane phase is kind of done, and then we just go gank people. Like that's how I would play this if I had control of Omni and Spirit Breaker.
That's something I think I'm not doing in games. I think like for me, because especially in my old rank, where a lot of the times I was winning the lane like pretty consistently, I always itemized to win the lane.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's holding me back, where it's like, okay, this lane is not going to be won, you know, itemize for what's going to happen immediately after.
Radiant's top tower is
Yeah,
under
I'd say this is an instance though where like it actually went pretty well. Like the fact that you have 36 last hits and he has 41, like he does have 12 denies, sure.
Yeah.
Omni is 14-3, CM's 13-0. We look at hero levels. You guys both have 6. He has like 1 level on you. Like I think given the way the Omni laned it, and the fact that you like the matchup is so bad, this actually should have been a lot worse for you guys. So it's you can kind of almost count it as a win because it should have been so bad. But yeah, you're right. You're not going to just completely stomp this lane. That's also just this hero though. Like Spirit Breaker is typically not a good laning hero. In the same way that like Earthshaker is not a good laning hero. Like oh, I'm almost 100% melee and have no mana to cast my powerful spells. Cool. Like I suck in lane, right? Like I just suck. So yeah, like I almost would never be itemizing to win the lane with Spirit Breaker anyway, unless they were also heroes like that. Like if it was like an Earthshaker hard carry and I was Spirit Breaker off lane, I'd be like, I'm gonna dominate this guy in lane because we both suck. And it's it's fine. But it's an SFCM, it's a really freaking annoying lane to play against. Like they're gonna kick your ass if they know what they're doing.
Yeah. See, like that's
your only recourse is to hard commit onto them, right? What are we gonna say?
I bought the bracers with that idea of like, you know, okay, well they're gonna hit the fuck out of me, so I need as much health and regen as possible. And I guess that still also works for like other parts of the game.
Yeah. One problem there though is like, and I still buy bracers sometimes when I have to play offlane, but bracers are actually just super goddamn inefficient. I mean, it's 0.75 health regen. And the thing costs you, what, 525 gold? Is it 505 now? I can't remember if they keep changing all these things on me. Bracers 505. So, for the cost of 2 bracers, you could just buy a stupid Ring of Health, which is giving you 4.75 health regen, which is
under attack.
like 3 times as much health regen. And it's actually less. This is 700 gold. 2 bracers is 1,010 gold.
Right.
Obviously, you're not getting those stats, right? You're not getting the damage and the armor and blah, 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 blah. But, like, if your goal is to sustain, like, honestly, like, Ring of Health is just, like, the best item in the game right now. It is so stupid.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be 700 gold. This item should be, like, 900 gold. It's dumb.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so that's, like, kind of an argument to just don't go bracers. Like, maybe you just go Vanguard, right? If you were going to static lane it, you'd probably just go Vanguard. You know, I don't know. But then a lot of their damage is magic, so it's probably like you need the magic stick as well. Like I think like magic stick, Ring of Health, and then you're like almost unkillable. And then you get like raindrops. Like if you can get like stick and then Ring of Health and raindrops, like they kind of just can't kill you anymore.
Yeah. What is a situation where I want to prioritize like stats?
You prioritize stats in those lanes where it's like you're both okay with the lane being static. So
so kind of just looking for an edge.
Yeah, you're looking
in like a very even matchup.
So like the reason why like stats are so important in mid, so like Void Spirit just got nerfed, right? They just took off like 5 base damage. That's a really big deal in mid because mid, like every last hit, every deny like adds up.
Yeah.
So like having that threshold of damage is really important. It's not so much like that on the side lanes, but it is kind of a factor. But if you're in a lane where it's like, okay, we don't really threaten each other, we're both just here to farm, but like they can contest my farm by like trying to deny me, that's when you'd like buy stats to like get more. Obviously, like buying strength on this hero gives you damage as well, so that's also increasing your health. So
Yeah.
it's increasing your ability to fight more. It's not just damage. But it's like, why do you buy Quelling Blade? To get last hits, like so they don't, like if there's no heroes in your lane, you should be able to lane with 0 items, like theoretically, right? Like you're just in an empty lobby, you should be able to get every last hit with no items. That should be your goal, to like get to that proficiency. So you're buying the Quelling Blade because they're supposed to be contesting your last hits, and you just added 8 damage. So your window for not getting denied is a lot larger, right? What'd you say, Cyberek? I remember when Quelling gave 24 damage to melee. Yeah, those were the days, right? It's crazy. So does that answer the question on stats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I always wondered that, like when people go for like stats instead of like skills or
you mean
spells.
like taking attributes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's. I mean, is that what you were asking, or were you talking about stats?
No,
in terms
no.
of
I figured it was for a similar reason. But yeah, that was always a weird one to me.
That is a weird one, and I don't think there's a clear-cut answer to that. Like, anybody that's taking stats early, like, that used to be a thing. Honestly, that used to be a thing on Juggernaut, Wraith King, and Sven a long time ago. Like, they take their stuff, they take their Q, and then they take stats. And they take the Q, and then they take stats. And the reason you were doing that was A, last hitting, but B, you needed more mana to keep casting your stupid Q. That's why people were doing that. In this meta, I don't know what fucking hero is taking stats all the time. But they just changed it so you can't take stats until 6 anyway.
Yeah, true.
And Cyberek says, you are buying bracers, wraith bands, etc. for winning the lane. Exactly. You're buying those items because your last hits are contested, or you're getting harassed a lot, or whatever kind of thing. You're trading hits a lot.
Right. But that's like the I guess for me, it's like, you know, my mindset before was like, okay, you buy the bracer in like a bad matchup to try and make it not a bad matchup. Whereas like, it seems to me what you're saying is like, it's better for you have an even matchup to secure the edge.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's how I think of it. I might not be 100% right. I don't play cores all the time, you know, and I'm only fucking, what, like 4K MMR, so I don't fucking know, but like, usually, yes, that's how I think of those like little items, you know, like bracers and quelling blades and magic wands and all that stuff. Like, you're buying it to push it over the edge.
Yeah.
If it's a lane that like you're supposed to be losing, that's where like the big ticket items are your other option, right? So like fucking Vanguard, Midas, and then also just playing it differently. Like, you know, like the 4 gets boots and then just drags creeps all the time. They never actually lane. Like, if the lane is that bad, there's almost no way you can itemize to fix it.
Yeah.
That's really the answer. So like Kristen will ask me this all the time, like, well, what if you bought this item or this item? I'm like, it just doesn't make a difference. You don't have enough gold to actually change the matchup in a significant way. Like, it's just how it is. Any item that would dramatically change this matchup is just cost too much.
Yeah. So in a similar kind of vein, are there situations that you think where like you're not going to be able to buy enough items to counter this carry or something like that? Are those games where it's like, okay, well then I need to itemize to maximize my strengths? Because that's something that sometimes that confuses me, where it's like, when should I be like looking to just buy counter items versus like, okay, I'm going for my fucking ags, you know?
Well, this
like,
would be an example, right? So I said that like my gut instinct here is that we lane it completely differently, and then you itemize for everything after the lane, which means phase boots, shadow blade, BKB, that kind of crap, right?
Right.
So that's like, the lane sucks. I can't fix it with my items. I mean, theoretically you could, right? With Vanguard and all that crap. But let's just say in this example, we're not even going to bother trying to win the lane, right? So I'm just itemizing to win the next part of the game, the mid game, right? If you can win the lane, then you should. But sometimes you can't. And if you can't win the lane, well, then what are you going to win? Like, what's your target, right? You want to win something. So, like, that's an example where, like, you'd be building into your strengths. What are the strengths of Spirit Breaker? Ganking, fighting, movement speed. So I'm going to buy more movement speed and items that help me gank better and fight better, right? Phase boots.
Yeah.
That's the exact example here.
Sure.
I think if you're ever in a situation where you're trying to itemize like reactively a lot, you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, you have to, right? If the enemy legion is like falling out of control, it's like, okay, fuck, I have to buy a Linken's now. You don't want to though. Like, you don't want to be in that position. You want to buy whatever the hell you want. The ideal game, everybody would go box Dagon and then you'd win.
Right.
Like, fuck you, we don't need items. Zap, you're dead. Like, that's what you would like it to be.
Yeah. See, that's what, like, I think, like, you know, it's kind of a weird thing for me in terms of thinking as, like, an offlaner. Like, it's kind of easier thinking as, like, a carry. It's like, I have to shit damage, so I might buy something a little bit more defensive, like, I don't know, if they have a bunch of spell damage, maybe I'll get, like, a Mage Slayer or something like that, but I'm still just, like, looking to shit damage.
Yeah.
Whereas with, like, an offlaner, it's like, you know, should I, like, you know, I could justify in my mind getting something like a pipe because they have magic damage, but is that better than me saying, look, I'm just gonna get Shadow Blade and fucking shit on them?
It's always context based. But okay, so let me ask you this question, and maybe you'll be able to answer it yourself.
Yeah.
So why are there farm positions, and why do those heroes that are typically a 5 or a 3 or 1 or whatever, why are they typically in that role?
Because the heroes that are in the top priority need items to be effective, whereas the heroes that are in the lower farm priority need less items to be effective.
Okay, and can you expand on that a little bit more? Like, what's the other implication there?
They also farm better.
That could be the case, yeah.
Like PA without PA spells alone don't do enough to like justify them as a pick. You need the items to it's the items and damage that end up making their spells good, whereas with like Lion, like all you really need is like, you know, levels to get to your ult.
Yeah.
And you'll always be kind of relevant.
How about, okay, let me give you a specific example then, so like push you in the direction I'm thinking. So like, why wouldn't you buy a Battle Fury on Spirit Breaker?
Because he doesn't attack fast enough to take advantage of that.
Right, so that's the other aspect to it. So it's the answer to the first question, like why are there positions, is there's a limited amount of farm on the map.
Right.
The farm is finite. We're not playing a fast money Dota map, right? With infinite minerals. That's the first thing. Second thing is, how much does the hero need? It needs a certain amount of net worth to do anything. That's definitely a big part of it. But also, how much can this hero actually utilize net worth? So like in that example I was talking about, remember where I said like I tried playing Treant Protector hard carry?
Yeah.
It turned out that even with like 25k net worth, I just couldn't carry. Like he just didn't have the stats to back it up. And it's the same kind of thing here. So like Like that question of like why, like do I buy damage on an off lane or do I buy survivability and all that stuff? It's like, well, what does your kit do? Does your kit give you a shit ton of damage? Well, then you don't need to buy it, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe your kit doesn't have any damage, but you're insanely tanky, so then you go buy those items. Or maybe you have all the initiation in the world. Okay, you don't need a blink dagger. You can buy something else, right?
Yeah.
So you're typically you're trying to fill the holes in your hero. Like, what's the weakness of the hero? Okay, it needs lots of gold. Okay, I'm gonna give it lots of gold. Okay, it has no mobility. I'm gonna buy it a blink dagger. Okay, it really likes attack speed because its ult does more damage with attack speed, like Juggernaut. Okay, I'm gonna give it attack speed. I'm gonna build into the strength, right? Or it needs more mana. I'm gonna buy arcane boots.
So, okay, an example of where this is like when I pick this hero, I get kind of confused about this. Centaur.
Yeah.
So obviously his W scales with his strength gain.
Yep.
I have seen certain people play into that, but I'm always confused of like, besides like, okay, well, I have an obvious stomp game. I can just kind of do whatever I want. But I wonder, are there situations where it would have been good for me to like prioritize that versus like getting like a pipe, you know what I mean? And like rushing I don't know, like a heart or something that's going to give me a bunch of strength.
It's sort of like, so so there's always a power gradient, right, to both teams. So if the enemy team is Venomancer, Zeus, SF, CM, you know what I mean? Like, they're just gonna blow you up with spells, and if you don't buy a pipe, you don't get to do anything, right? Or whatever the item may be. Maybe it's BKB, maybe it's fucking whatever. I don't care. Vanguard.
Right.
So it's like, you need to address what the other team does, but if the other team doesn't really do anything, then you get to skip that. So if they're a team that like doesn't actually do a lot of magic damage and can't really harass that well, then okay, well then I don't actually need a lot of survivability items. I don't need magic resistance. I don't need BKB. Skip, go straight into damage items, right?
Gotcha. So maybe might that be the answer on like certain games where I play against? Because maybe that's a mistake that I'm making. Like certain games where I'm playing against a greedy team where I know they're not going to fight early.
Yeah.
They're going to avoid it. Like we want to fight early. Those are games where I should be like, okay, well I'm just going to fucking, maximize my damage so that we can fight early.
Yeah, or whatever the item is. So take Centaur. Like Centaur's a good example of a hero that's like really strong if you give him items, but actually has a bunch of holes in his kit, right? So he starts with literally 0 armor now. He doesn't have a lot of mana. He doesn't actually do any ranged harass at all, and his stun is melee range. So what does that mean? Probably going to need to buy armor. You're going to need to buy a little bit of regen. Mana will be a problem for you eventually, so you might want like a stick or a soul ring or something like that, or support to buy arcane boots for you, something like that. And because your stun is only melee, you're gonna need to buy like a blink dagger, right?
Right.
But then after that, go buy whatever the hell you want. Go buy 3 hearts, or fucking AC or pipe or radiance or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think your idea is correct. Like, if the enemy team is just gonna farm and they're not gonna do anything, then it's like, okay, so that means we actually get to do whatever we want to do. So this happens all the time. Like, if you have you get like a farming mid and you get a farming like safe lane, and then your off lane goes Midas, like shit, we can't do anything. And that means the enemy team gets to do whatever they want to do because you guys have no pressure, right?
Yeah.
So if the enemy team is all farming, they pick like, let's just say they pick 3 hard carries. It's like Ursa, Sniper, Medusa, just stupid, right? They're just all farming. That means, okay, we can 5-man death ball anywhere we want to because they can't fight back. We can go into farm mode ourselves because they can't stop us. we can gank them over and over again and just try and keep the lane phase going as long as possible and just kill them on repeat. Like, we get to do all of those things because the other team doesn't exert any pressure on us. They don't force us to do anything.
Right.
But if we don't do anything and the game goes for 3 hours, then we're all just going to die to Divine Rapiers, right?
Yeah.
So, like, every single hero has strengths and weaknesses, and those are relative to the other team. And they also have power spikes, too. So certain heroes are only useful if you give them 20k net worth. Certain heroes dick on you with nothing, like Skywrath, right? Skywrath just walks up, boom, magic damage, you're dead, right? But then...
Right.
So you have to, like, factor all that stuff in, and items are ultimately a way to, like, address weaknesses or accentuate strengths.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
if the enemy team sucks, that means I have no weaknesses. I can just build to do, you know, whatever I want. I can be super strong. If they're stronger than us, then I have to address that in some way with my items to then be offensive. You have to not die before you can kill the other guy, right?
Right.
I hope that's answering the question, because it is like
absolutely.
Massive concept.
Yeah, I like that we address some like kind of fundamental things.
Okay.
Would it be cool if I just peed real quick?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
All right, sorry about that.
Something else that is specific to Spirit Breaker, by the way, is that you don't actually need regen in the mid game because you're global. So like you can go in, get down to 10% HP, TP home, fill up, and just charge out again. So that's like one of the strengths of this hero. Is like a weakness he does not have is regen because he's global.
True.
So that's always something to think about, and that's part of the reason where I'm like, I don't really like the bracers. I don't really like the boots of bearing. Like, these are not bad items. They're just like, I mean, do you need them? No. Like, could this be, like, with all this net worth, could this be, like, phase boots and working towards a Blink Dagger? Or not Blink Dagger, BKB. You know?
Yeah.
Or could it be, like, you're going towards, like, Kaya Yasha or Sanjin Yasha or whatever, right? Like, just building into that shit. Because Spirit Breaker is a very weird hero in that he is just kind of a tactical nuke. And that's it. Like all this hero does is just fucking Leroy Jenkins across the map. And he's very unique in that way. And it's actually part of the reason why he doesn't get played core. Part of the reason he doesn't get played core is because his lane phase is dog ass. He doesn't actually scale like well with a lot of items. He just scales well with like move speed. And he actually doesn't even need that much to be effective. Like, really, all you need is level 6. And then you can charge around the map and charge whoever you want, and you're effective. You know?
Yeah, we give him some, what are those, Void Stones? No, that's not what it is.
Hyper Stones.
Yeah, give him some Hyper Stones.
Yeah,
He'll be bashed.
It's true. But also, the way attack speed works is that it goes... It's different for different heroes. So, like, because of your BAT, attack speed is literally better on heroes with lower BAT.
Yeah.
That's why, like, stupid Treant Protector carry doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much attack speed I give him. If everybody else buys the same attack speed, they still attack faster. I can never breach that because of stupid base attack time. And also agility growth, right?
Yeah. So what you're saying is I need to find an Oracle player and go to work.
Maybe. I don't know how effective that is really, but yeah, I don't know. But this seems fine. I mean, you know, these items are fine. They help your team fight more and all that stuff. It's all great. I don't know. I hope that's all helpful.
No, definitely. I actually really like that, you know, with a little bit of time off that we're going over some fundamental stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it is the thing that you need to focus on the most, to be honest. Like, that's like the number one thing that's going to help you get better at the game is understanding items. That's I think like your main weak spot its items.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think ultimately that's the way you need to look at items. Is there an answer to a question?
Yeah.
Okay, like, so what's the question? Okay, are they stronger than me? Are they weaker than me? Do I have to play aggressive? Do I have to play defensive? What items help me do that? And sometimes you do get to buy into your strengths, and sometimes you have to buy into your weaknesses. And it depends on, like, it's gauging how much the power scale would shift either way, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, like if you just buy that one sustain item, then that's good enough. And sometimes you have to buy 3, and it's actually not worth it.
It's like thinking like, oh, this person shits out a lot of magic damage. Like, do I need to buy some like magic resistance, or can I just buy an item and burst them down? And
Exactly. Yeah,
what I
exactly.
mean?
Like on a hero like Skywrath, it's like, okay, do I have to buy a BKB for the support, or can I itemize in a way that lets me kill him faster, and we just kill him?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how do we solve the problem of dying to this whatever it is?
Yeah.
Because there's always more than one answer, right? Like in this lane that we're talking about, it's not purely like items and last hits. It's also like, well, if the Omni does X, Y, Z, you know, or if in the draft phase we're not even in this situation to begin with, or maybe we just take the L on the lane and then we go do stuff elsewhere, right? Like that's it. So, okay. That was a lot, so let's look at our notes real quick. We said, for sure, need to track heroes' health and mana more.
Yeah, for sure.
Think of items as an answer to the question of who is stronger or weaker and how do they need to play, right? I think that's like a broad concept for you to think about.
Yeah.
So I also want to put in here like the way like I would have played the lane. So alternate way to, actually I'll just put it here in question 1. So what is proper response in double melee versus double range? Like how do we play this lane? So the proper thing is we don't static lane it. So don't static lane. And that means we don't want the creep waves to be meeting. As the core though, this is not under your control strictly, right? So this is why creep dragging is important. That's like the best you can do. It's just creep drag a lot, right? So don't static lane. Support should drag creeps, pull camps, pause chaos for you, and give as much solo XP as possible. Or should drag creeps or defensive aggro and avoid interacting with enemy lane or enemy heroes. But also in this lane specifically, so if you did have to static lane it, then I think it would have been stick, ring of health, raindrops, and you would have been good. You don't strictly need Vanguard because a lot of their damage is magic, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just rush a, like if Hood of Defiance was still available, that would have been the item. You just go Hood of Defiance and then you're pretty much good.
That was a tragedy.
Yeah, but that's not really an option anymore, so people just go Vanguard. But it would have been like these 3 items and then maybe Vanguard if you were gonna static lane it, right?
That was like my personal 9/11. That shit was, I could not believe they got rid of it.
It's very weird. Strange that they did that, yeah. But they did it because of the BKB change, right?
Yeah.
That's, I think, the main reason they did that.
Really?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, they nerfed BKB so you can still take damage while it's up, right?
Yeah.
So if you could just buy a Hood of Defiance and buy a BKB, it would have just been kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, they made it so int gives you magic resistance, so I don't know what the fuck they're smoking. Anyway.
I didn't know that. What the fuck?
I think it's like every 10 magic, yeah. It's like every 10 int gives you, yeah, so you have 69 int Giggity.
Yeah.
You have 6.9 base magic resistance additional right now.
Weird.
So you have 31 magic resist because of that. So it's every 10 int gives you a magic resistance, basically. Or, yeah.
Gonna fucking buy 6 Shiva guards against Muerta.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't know why they did that either.
Weird.
There was a patch a little while ago where it was like strength gave you magic resistance, int gave you spell amp, and agi gave you move speed. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was a weird one. So now they brought back like part of it, and strange, fucking strange. Anyway, that was mid gameplay. Honestly, we weren't really looking at that too much, but it seemed good. Like I saw you farming a little bit, and then you guys like took some fights and won. So we'll say fine. It's fine. Okay. Do you think we covered everything here? Like, do these notes sum up what we were talking about?
Yeah. No, I feel very good about this.
Okay, that's good. All right. So I really want to see like more like hero spamming though. I know the patch is like volatile and everything like that, and everything got changed.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important for you to like spam heroes, figure out these weaknesses.
Yeah.
Strengths and stuff like that, because then you'll be able to itemize differently because you'll know, you know.
I agree. I'm just, ADHD and all that. But maybe just focusing. I don't know. I think Doom is a good answer to that because, not only like I think he's very versatile with his items. Like Devour can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a nice
passive you have or what active you get.
It's a nice flexible pick. You can go late, you can play early, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can itemize all different ways.
That's probably the answer.
Okay. So keep practicing Doom, we'll say.
We'll say Doom and Sand King.
Okay. So next week, if we do another one, I want to see all Doom and Sand King, unless you have to roll queue. All Doom, Sand King. Like 10 games of that shit.
I will keep my word to you on that.
Okay, good. And I don't even play that much Doom, so maybe I'll go play some freaking Doom games too, so I can like figure out some stuff about him. But that's another thing. I wish I could give you better coaching on offlane, simply because I don't play all these freaking heroes. Like I played all the heroes in the game, right? But like, I'm not an offlane player, so I don't feel like I can give you like the best advice on it all the time. So I have to like talk about like what the hell the Omni should be doing. It's not relevant to you, you know. So it's kind of lame on my part, but maybe I'll just start playing it more anyway. And I'll be able to give you better advice.
I'm feeling good about what we talked about.
Good. Okay. I'm glad. Good stuff. All right, man. Well, that was a lot. So good job. Went for an hour. We gotta cut these down to 30 minutes, man. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'll definitely. I think it also just comes down to like, I didn't get to play much, and it was a lot of time in between, so I lost focus on the goals.
Yeah.
Of the last session.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that I stay on that because that'll make it so that we're focused on something. Whereas it felt like I had some ideas, but we ended up kind of talking about more general things because there wasn't concrete things that we had set out to work on.
Right.
Or set out to talk about for this match.
Right. Okay. You mean because like we missed the week?
Oh, I just mean like because we missed the week and I didn't get to play much, so like I played most of these games today, and I was like I did look at it, but it wasn't so like relevant in my head.
Yeah.
That I forgot a lot of it, and I was like, shit, I didn't do this or that.
That's fair. You know what, dude? Here, tell you what. You got sticky notes on hand?
Yes.
Yeah. Just write it on a sticky note. Right. Spam heroes. Practice Doom. and just stick it right there in front of your monitor.
That.
That's what I did for a while. I left myself like a little note, like after I lose 2 ranked games, stop queuing rank, and always record Roche time and do the pulls and stuff like that, and it really helped.
That's a good idea. I will definitely be grinding it out.
Nice.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. And keep up, keep practicing. Glad to see you still climbing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, even, we take a little bit of time off, but we're still on track.
There you go. Good stuff. All right, man.
Cool.
I'll catch you next week, then.
Hell yeah. See you later.
Later. And thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget I stream on Twitch. Schedule's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to still try and keep it every day, but it might be a little bit later. Check out the Dota coaching playlist at the end of the video, and like and subscribe and comment down below if you had any questions about this game or like how to play offlane better or anything like that. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.